Hello, Rafael.
What's up, Joey?
I'm good. And you?
Yeah, I just got back from the beach. I try to take 1 hour at the beach per day is definitely the way to get my head clear.
Really? And then you just walk, or what do you do?
No, actually, I mean, we just lay down on the beach. I'm like staying right in front of the beach, so I just like leave the house and I'm standing with my feet in the sand. So I just lay
Nice.
down, do a couple of calls. I don't have to do it at the computer and just try to take it easy, at least for an hour, hour and a half. It's always good.
Nice. Where do you live? Germany or?
No, I'm in Ibiza now. So Ibiza is like became like second home, more or less first home since the last couple of months. Is not like international touring. I'm just playing shows in Germany. So like Ibiza, I'm going back and forth between Ibiza and Germany.
How is it there right now? Because I can imagine that the whole island is kind of deserted.
It's quiet. Yeah, I've never seen it quiet. Actually, only in the winter. The winter here is beautiful. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, since beginning of September already, it looks like November, October. So it's not that many people. There, you have some spots where you got a couple more tourists, mostly Spanish, Dutch, German, but not that many anymore. It's actually pretty bad. Since they put Spain on the risk list, like everyone left. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for people here who live here to make money. I mean, there was no season. Actually, the season was maybe 3, 4 weeks, and even the season was very restricted. And yeah, since the red lists, there's nothing they can do. They're closing bars and restaurants. No club was open all summer. I mean, just like open air clubs, and they just had to do like the table service thing.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not allowed to dance and to have fun here. That's
Yeah.
totally.
Same here. Kind of seems to be the rule over the world right now, right? Like not having fun.
1 year of no fun. That's very important.
Yeah, exactly. And just to give the people who listen or watch this talk a little bit of insight of who you are, if they not know you, who is Plastic Punk?
Plastic Funk. Yeah, I mean, we started as a duo. Um, what is it? 17 years ago. It's quite a long time ago. Um, and we're touring together for years. Just we did our own parties called the Royal Funk Nights, and then the Plastic Fantastic Nights. We were started producing together like 16, 15 years ago, and yeah, released some more successful, some not so more successful tracks on a lot of labels like Ministry of Sound, on Milk and Sugar Records, on Armada, and on Spinnin'. Yeah, and like 3, 4 years ago, my partner was just stepping out of the whole DJ business because he had some health issues. He couldn't tour anymore. He's working as an A&R now. He's doing really well. We're still good friends, but he stepped out. So yeah,
Okay.
then it was just me. And like a couple of months after he stepped out, we did like a whole refresh of the brand with with just one face. We got
Mhm.
signed by Stefan Darburg Management, which is the same management who's taking care of Robin Schulz, Alle Farben, Hugel. And yeah, since then, I tried to give my sound or our sound a little update and just try to figure out where I want to go to, which took me a while. But yeah, we went back to our roots to house music in any kind of direction, and that worked out really well. So the last 3 years were pretty successful. Like everything was doing. Actually, I was super happy that everything went so well. Yeah, and since March 7th, we're in
Yeah.
a pretty different situation. But yeah, music-wise, everything is going well.
How are you dealing with that situation right now?
I mean, like in the beginning when like it started, like I was in China in January when the whole thing started. So
Mhm.
I really like experienced it from right from the beginning when like people got more scared and the whole mess thing started, and um, there was the time where like people in Europe didn't even had a clue what was going on, and
Yeah.
And it was already a bit weird because it got like more and more serious. I was playing a 14-day tour and I was playing in China when it started, then left to the Philippines and thought like, okay, now we're out of China. We heard about like some diseases here and there, like outbreaks in China before, so was not that shocked. But then it came to the Philippines the same time I was there, and you heard about more cases. It was on the news like 24/7. And then I left the Philippines, went to Singapore, and I thought like, okay, one of the safer countries in Asia. And I turned on the TV in a hotel. It was like all about COVID-19 and like how many infections they already had. And I left Singapore. It was one of the last shows in Singapore. 3 days after I left Singapore, they closed on the country, like no in, no out. So actually, yeah, I left on time.
Good luck. Yeah.
In February, I went back to Asia for a show, 2 shows in Japan, 1 show in Thailand, and no 2 shows in Thailand. And it was already super weird. There was a lot of rules, and you really felt that something's going to happen. And I was telling this to all my friends in Europe, and no one was believing me that this is going to get serious. And then 7th March was the last show, and it was my party. We were like so close to cancel it because we didn't know what's going to happen. It was like they were talking about closing clubs down, and it was actually a pretty good show. It was really like an amazing event. We didn't expect anything. We thought like, okay, there's maybe 100 or 200 people, but it was a sold out night and it was good. But yeah, after this, partying was over. Like no, for me, I mean, the first couple of weeks of lockdown was just you were like under shock. I mean, you realize it now that during that time you didn't know what was going on. Now you know much better what really happened. And actually, I think for me and for I think quite a lot of my DJ friends, it was maybe a good break because I was touring nonstop for 4 years. I mean, just last year I did like 190, 200 shows.
That's a lot.
And I stopped counting flights from like 350 and more. So it was 300, maybe around 400 flights I did in 2019. And I was okay. I mean, I really love what I do, and I know how to balance myself with sports and with like eating healthy and try to get my sleep when I'm home. And I'm a workaholic, so I love what I do. So for me, it was never a problem. But once you start sleeping, once you have like a regular kind of lifestyle, you realize how tired your body is and how tired your brain is. And that was pretty interesting. It was like, driving 200 kilometers per hour on a highway and then like for 3 years and then stopping is pretty weird. It took me a while to really cool down and to really get myself back to staying home,
Yeah. That's what I get a lot from the bigger artists who tour a lot. Like it just feels strange, because you're so used to constantly being on the move and constantly, working, and even though it might not feel as work, you still are at work. And just as you mentioned, then once you stop, then you start noticing like, oh shit, I might have been more tired than I thought I was.
Yeah, you're like in this. It's like running through a tunnel, But the problem, I think, a big problem is, and this is why it's so difficult to have this timeout. It's kind of an addiction, You're addicted to go back to the airport. You're addicted to tour. Until that point, you really feel burned out, For me, it's like I have these moments where I just like felt like, okay, I'm really, really tired. And I need this week, but after 3-4 days, I always felt like super recovered and was happy to go back on tour. Even I have family home and everything is doing great at home, but it really feels like an addiction now when you think more about it, like after all this time. And I know how happy I was when it was after, I don't know, the lockdown time when I was going on a plane again to the airport and flying to the show. I was super happy. So I don't know, it's something between addiction and passion. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it could also have become a habit, so not necessarily an addiction, but it might have become a habit of you as well. It became your comfort zone.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, the first couple, that was your question. It was like easier to take some time off, but total different stuff. I started reading books I wanted to read forever. started my the PlayStation contest with some of my friends around the world. We wanted to do forever things you were like just moving to next year or next month. You know, you never do, but we did it during that time. Did some renovation in the house here in Ibiza and just try to use the time in a good way. But for me, like feeling like you're in prison after 4 weeks, 5 weeks, especially in Spain, which had the hardest lockdown in
Yeah.
Europe, was getting too much. I had some discussions with police cops here where I really got too far. It was not about like protecting me or the people around. It was just like giving us a hard time. And after the third discussion, where I was like really close to say something bad to one of the cops to get arrested, I was like, "Come on, we pack our stuff, we go back to Germany. Lockdown there is a joke. Seriously, it was a joke compared to
Yeah.
Spain." And then we went to Germany, and in Germany, then there was already end of April. I played the first car shows, you know, the drive-in shows. Actually, the
Yeah.
first drive-in show all around the world we played, and it was the World Clapton Party, which was amazing. It was a
How was that for an experience? Because you're used to playing in front of so many people, and now you're looking at cars.
It was weird on one side. On the other side, it was the first show in front of people after 2 months. It was the 30th of April, and since 7th of March, I didn't play. I just did live streams here and there and tried to stay connected to the fans. I was so excited and so happy. I mean, everyone was super happy with the set because it was just like so much energy inside of me, which had to go out somehow.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not taking any drugs, but my tour manager really asked me, it's like during that night, he was like, "Rafa, you okay? I mean, you're smiling like a fucking idiot, you know?" But I was so happy to play in front of fans. We were like waving out of the cars and just having a good time. It was amazing. Like that feeling, yeah, to appreciate, you really appreciate that moment, you know, because like normally touring, some especially like in the tour in January, I played like 14 shows in 14 days. You know, you go from show to show, and it's normal to have all these people in front of you. But that moment, you realize, yeah, how amazing that is. You know, to have that.
That's actually it is. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So, let's forget about the whole. Well, not let's forget about it, but let's move on from the whole COVID thing because I think that's something kind of the main topic these days, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But I don't really think that we can look into the future of how everything's gonna evolve from there because that's just one big question mark, I think, for everyone. Um, yeah. Do you have some thoughts about that, like how the music industry will be after this?
Yeah, the problem is it's hard to figure out what is or what's the when is the time starting after this. To say
Yeah.
after this would say you have to say like there's a day where people say like, oh, there's a vaccine and everything starts from, you know, like we stopped 6 months ago, and that's, I think, is the biggest problem. This is not going to happen. I think everything will be changed dramatically. I mean, it's like, you know, a human being is it's amazing how creative we are to get out of like difficult situations, and I'm pretty sure we will find a way. We already do. I mean, I'm doing my own parties almost every weekend at the moment, and we've found concepts which are safe and still bring like around 500 people together, which is great, you know. I think like in the beginning, right after we have a vaccine or a kind of medication to heal infected people, I think it will start like step by step. And yeah, I think parties will be smaller, fees will get smaller. um, I think it will get back to the roots, a little bit, you know, smaller club shows or bigger venues, less people, smaller fees, not so much like I mean, the last couple of years were like bigger, bigger. Everything had to be bigger. Just go to Asia, go to Las Vegas. You know, everyone tried to have bigger clubs, bigger shows, bigger fees. I think we will go through a little cleanup, which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
so good for our pockets. But yeah, let's hope for everyone we will find a way to party together in
Yeah.
the most normal way possible.
Well, the good thing is since you're already so long in the music industry, you already have experienced how the basic music industry was. Because
Yeah.
I also still remember when I started like 15 years ago, it kind of felt basic to me. If I look back at it now, it kind of felt basic. You know, you had some clubs, but there were like dark places with smoke and this flashlight, and that was it. You know.
Yeah.
And right now you have all those flashy clubs with dancers and fireworks and everything.
Yeah.
So you go back to that time when you got started. What was one of the biggest challenges you had? Because did you start off as a duo or did you first was by yourself?
No, first I was DJing by myself. And I think the biggest challenge for everyone is to make it out of your bedroom into the clubs. And I mean, I started early. So the good thing is it was good to learn it from scratch, but still be young. And like, so I'm able to still be not too old and I can enjoy what's happening now or before COVID.
Yeah.
So I think the hardest challenge was to really make it out of the private parties I did in my parents' house and make it into the clubs. And I mean, the thing is, I was doing this private parties in my parents' house every time my father was, because my father's a pilot, so he was gone sometimes for a while. And these parties were getting bigger and bigger. And the last party we did was like around 350 people. So
At home.
at home. Well, we have a pretty big house, thank God, but there was definitely too much for that house as well. And it's in a really small village. And like the week when my parents got home, people were asking them, was like, what happened? Because there was more cars in the village than ever before, you know. And I was still like 17, so yeah, I had to explain a lot during that day. But there was a moment where I said, okay, something has to happen. And I was going to clubs illegally, even when I was 17. And I saw the DJs playing, and I just wanted to make it there. And it was not that easy to make that step because like sending out tapes during that time was not enough. So I was just doing DJ contests, and I won the first one, and then I won the second one. And people knew that when I come, I always bring like 100 of my friends, and I was not doing too bad. So there was like the start to have a residency, then the second one, and then yeah, to make the next steps, learn to produce. I know there was like after 4 or 5 years of DJing, sometimes I mean some people are like have this one hit and then it starts right away. You know, really had to work ourselves from bottom up. You know.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that time where you're like desperate because you think like, oh, it's not moving, it's not going forward. I want to have this, I want to have that, and then yeah, I just learned that it's hard work. You know, you have to have talent and definitely have to love what you're doing, but it's definitely a lot of hard work. That's I think it's the hardest challenge.
Yeah. What was it hard for you to make a living from music, or when did that moment came when you first noticed like, hey, I can actually leave my job if you had one, or I can pay my bills with just music?
Actually, I had to make the decision because I was playing baseball professionally, and I was working in a marketing agency and for a magazine. So all this in the same time. Baseball games on Sundays, DJing Fridays and Saturdays, and 5 days a week a normal job as a journalist and in a marketing agency. So I came to that point. I was 22 or 21, 22, where I realized like, okay, if you want to do this 100%, you got to do it 100%. So I risked everything. I stopped playing baseball. I quit my job and yeah, put it all on music. First 6-7 months were pretty tough because there was no extra income anymore. But then it was the right decision because the first records, I spent more time on producing music. I spent more time on like really buying my records, and the DJ sets got even better. From my opinion, I mean, I think people outside they didn't really saw the difference, but for me, I felt more comfortable DJing, and yeah, then step by step, it went all the way to the just 100% to be a musician.
Yeah, and there was one thing you said which I wanted to ask about. What was it? It just slipped away. Oh yeah, moment where you where you decided to go all in. You know, like you left your day job. you just said it so easily. Like I just left the day job and I went all in. But I've done it as well. I left college for it, but I remember that it was a pretty big step, because
Cool.
everyone around you is telling you, especially your parents, like you have to study, you have to work, you have to make money, and
Yeah.
then you as a little kid tell them like, "Fuck you, I'm doing something else."
Yeah,
How was that
yeah, there was a lot of sleepless nights, that's for sure.
for
uh,
you or for your parents?
yeah, no, I mean, actually, my parents, as far as I remember, they were the most relaxed ones in the whole situation. They said like, if this is what you love, and it was the same with sports. When I do something, I try to do it 100% or with all my heart. I really try to yeah to do something which I really love 100%. And it was the thing with sports before. It was the thing with the media agency I was working for. It was actually I really enjoyed it, but their music came up and was just like getting more and more and took more and more of my time. So it was a couple of weeks. I remember I went to Holland to surf for a couple of days and just tried to make a decision. I didn't have to do the decision from the outside. It was just I knew there's something I had to change something, otherwise I will not be happy, because it was getting too much. I was super tired at baseball games. I was tired at doing working during the week. At night, I was producing and playing music with my friends. Yeah, and I had to change something. But it was
Yeah.
tough. To make the decision was not easy, and the first month after the decision was not easy too.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then after the first month, like the first money came in, or
Yeah, I mean, I had my residencies, which was not too bad. So I had some kind of basic money, but I mean, I had some months where it was hard for me to pay my bills. It was not easy. I tried to really get as much DJ jobs as possible, but it was a lot of hustling. I mean, you know how the DJ
yeah,
scene is. Even for like 15, 14 years ago, it was not easy. To get a residency between all the other people trying to get the same job. But yeah, I mean, I got the right support even from my parents, not financial wise, because my
mhm,
parents thought like, okay, if you want to do this, you got to do it yourself, and that was the right way to go. But
yeah,
I always had the backup, like when I needed to talk to someone, it's good to have good friends,
yeah.
parents always like behind you. That was definitely a good support.
And in that wrestling club you were talking about, was that a club where you could play the music you really enjoyed, or was that a club where you had to play different kinds of styles? Or
No, thank God. I was always lucky enough to play in clubs where I was playing the music I wanted to play 100%. I mean, I had the offer here and there to play, like we had this mixed parties where you had like 1 hour of house music or
mm,
commercial house music and 1 hour of hip hop and R&B. I tried to refuse these offers as much as I could because every
yeah,
time I had a show like that, even if it was money, and when I needed the money, it was fine. But I was always, when I left the club, I was not happy. I left the club and was like, what am I doing here? It's like people are sending me song requests, which is fine. But then, like you saw the next guy playing R&B, and they were dancing to the same stuff every week. And I was like, okay, this was not my plan. I want,
yeah,
I had a different plan than this.
yeah,
And my residency at the club was called Poison Club.
mhm.
This club really was a poison club because it opened Saturday nights at 10 p.m. and went all the way to Sunday 5 p.m. And
That's
yeah, and
intense.
I tried to play like shows Saturday night somewhere, and then went to the club and I hosted the second area, which was the house club, but was from 6 a.m. until 10 or 11 a.m. So
Oh,
that's every Sunday after playing shows somewhere in my area before. So imagine just without taking any drugs, just having some drinks with your friends and stuff. It was tough. I really enjoyed it because I had like always 3, 4 record cases with me, and I really learned how to keep a dance floor even in the morning
mhm,
for 3, 4, 5 hours. I played everything from vocal house, disco house to tech house, and just tried to build it up and give the people like kind of a story. And it was working out because the second area, the house areas, after like 2, 3 weeks, got so packed that every Sunday
yeah,
was amazing. I was super happy, but also like that tired. Like you can
yeah.
how tired you are on a Monday morning when you try to go back to the studio. But at the time, and it was a good time to learn how to really be a DJ for 5, sometimes 6 hours, and to not play the same records, just to create a real set. I really enjoyed it.
That's something I've had as well. I've experienced that as well. But that's something I've seen changing in the past couple of years. Like the thing you just mentioned, playing playing an all-nighter, telling a story through your music.
Yeah.
That's not something that happens. Well, I'm not sure if it even happens. I don't see it that often. But is that something you had to get used to, because now you get booked for the artist you are and the name that you have, and they expect you to play a certain sound in that hour or 2 hours that they book you. Was that something you had to get used to?
Actually, no. I mean, I'm talking about this quite a lot because when I remember the times where you played like a 4 or 5 hour set or like an all night long set, you kind of miss it sometimes. But for me, I think I'm a pretty flexible person when it comes about changes. I get used to things really fast and try to put myself in the right position to still enjoy it, but just adapt my sets to it, Yeah. So actually, like, for example, when I play in China, it's so different to what I do in Europe. It's 1 hour of playing much harder than I play normally somewhere else, but I still try to that this hour is a Plastik Funk set, even it's faster mixing, more energy, and much harder than what I normally do. When I play a 2-3 hour set and I'm allowed to do it, sure, you have to like switch, but I still enjoy that as well. Sometimes I miss it because for me, like, I mean, DJing for me is kind of an art. Do it for 1 hour, you can really like transport a special feeling through the music you're playing. But for me, like a 5-6 hour set sometimes really was like, it was a piece of art. Yeah, like you start with the warm and you really build it up to a peak, and then you try to keep the people sometimes with classics. Really, I really enjoyed that. And to do this every Sunday was tough, but on the other side, I was really excited every time I got there, and I knew I had like the 3-4 record cases built up. It was a good time for sure.
Yeah, great memories, I can imagine.
Yeah.
When did the partner came in?
The what? Sorry.
The partner, the other guy you were Plastik Funk with.
Actually, it was already after DJing myself until I was like 21, 22. I was already DJing for 5 years. We met at a party, and he was. We played back to back at a party, which was totally empty. It was a horrible party, and he was supposed to play after me. And I've just felt bad that he had to wait like 2 hours until I was done, and then he was supposed to play. So there was 10 people on the dance floor, so we decided to just play together. And he almost had like 95% of the same records in his case like I had, so it fit perfectly. And we decided to do something and just to do a side project. And then it got better and better. People really liked that 2 guys 4 turntables thing, And we did a project out of it and called it Plastik Funk. And from that time on, we were together for quite a long time. Spent more time together than with our girlfriends. And time. I think for him it was not easy to really then finish all this, but he had some problems with his back, so he couldn't travel anymore, and he had to do some surgery. And after this, he was just not feeling it anymore on tour.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sucks. When you started playing, like at a certain point, you also started to sign your first record deals, right? I'm not sure if you still remember, but do you still remember how you got in contact with those labels?
I mean, the first records we signed was with a friend of ours, actually, who started a small underground house label. But during that time, he was really well connected. He was from Belgium, and the label was called Sure Player. And he had already like records by Kid Cream, Junior Jack, and during that time, these guys were the kings,
Big guys.
Yeah, like Junior Jack, Kid Cream. He had like Ian Carey and all like the heroes of the baseline house music. It was amazing. So he signed a couple of our records, and that was actually the beginning for us. And we just had like single deals here and there, and just tried to send out music. And some labels answered, some not. Was tough actually. The first couple of years, we didn't really see it growing the right way, but we released tracks. They got supported by a couple of good names, and then yeah, everything took a bit more time than nowadays. Nowadays you can make a career in a week if you want to.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, if you have the right record, like just imagine you can produce a record on Monday, Tuesday, send it to the label. They maybe do the last mastering, send it to Beatport, and after 7, 8 days, it's on Beatport, and a week and a half after, it can be number one. It's like
Yeah,
50
yeah.
years ago,
In the most
it's
extreme
possible.
version, that might happen. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, but at that time it definitely took a bit more time to bring a release to the stores. But I think the first record deal we signed was with Ministry of Sound, Ministry of Sound UK and Germany, and that was huge for us because they started their label, and that was the first step to really release music on an international major label. But the thing is, I was like, even when I was 20, I played my first shows in US, and with 21, 22, I played my first shows in Ibiza. So I met a lot of people from labels and made some contacts here and there. So for me, it was always a little bit easier through the touring to get in contact with some people. I just had to deliver quality then, and that was then the harder part.
Yeah. And do you think, looking back in hindsight, that networking part has been a key element of your success?
100%, yeah. I always try to, yeah, networking. I always try to have a good network all around the world. I mean, I started with this pretty early, and this is why, like with 22, no, well, with 20, I played my first show in Miami, and it was just because the resident DJ of Nicky Beach was one of my buddies when he was in Germany. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty big, for a 20-year-old. I was not even allowed to be at the party. I had to fake my ID to play and to get into the club.
Yeah.
So
States is 21, right?
Sundays in Miami, that was the place to be during that time. There was 3,000 to 4,000 people. So yeah, from that time on, you smelled the international DJ thing, and then you try to get out of Germany as much as you can and try to tour around. So I experienced it pretty early, and then you get addicted. Then you want more of this.
Yeah. And now that if you can look back in hindsight, and I think the whole Corona period kind of helped you to reflect on all the things that might have happened in the past couple of years. What's one of the biggest things you've learned from all those years?
I think the biggest problem I see in our business, I mean, there's like 2 or 3 like big problems I see you have to work on, and sometimes you have to avoid. Is first of all to not lose your path. Sometimes if you work on something and you love one kind of style of music, sometimes people get lost because they listen too much to other people instead of just listening to themselves and just try to do what they like. It is good to get some advice from other people, but it should like just make better what you like to do. I see a lot of artists who just block themselves out because they listen too much, especially in the underground. I see this a lot. People try to be more underground than other people, and some people say this is commercial, you cannot do that, and they start producing bullshit instead of just doing what they like to do. Same in the commercial area. It's like there's a lot of big room DJs who just like so much influence from the internet, from social media, that they just try to be someone else instead of being themselves and just try to do what they really like to do. I see people like imitating other big DJs because they see them on YouTube or play their playlist instead of doing their own edits and try to get their own style, their own signature on a DJ set or in a production. There's too much copying because copying gets so easy for sure. I think the second biggest problem is definitely that this whole business can totally burn you out. And I saw a lot of my friends around me who, just completely lost it with drugs, with alcohol, with just like having a heavy burnout and just not being themselves anymore, you know? And I mean, I had moments like 3, 4, 5 years ago where for me, I was just like difficult to answer my phone because it was stressing me out, you know? And it was the moments because I'm on the phone normally nonstop because I'm networking, talking, doing business. And that was for me like where I realized, okay, you know, that's too much now. It's really like you need more time out, not only just one night from Sunday to Monday. You need 2 nights, maybe 3 nights, and do more sport to have like to yeah push like the bad stuff out and just focus again, you know, on the positive things. That's definitely one of the second biggest problems for sure.
Those are some good tips. You know, I ask these things quite often to artists, and most of the time you get good tips. But I really believe in this one, maybe because I've experienced it myself, so I know what the effect of it could be. Yeah, but I completely agree with you that sticking to yourself and staying authentic to yourself, doing what you love to do, is super important as an artist. And also taking care of yourself is the most important thing, which unfortunately a lot of artists forget about. So yeah, completely agree.
I mean, it is not like that I'm following this 100% myself. I'm trying to learn every day, you know, especially the time now. I mean, it is something I have never thought I would experience, but it's a lesson every day. I mean, I got my ups and downs. You got days where I'm like sitting with friends on the terrace and they ask me, hey, how is it doing? You know, how is everything going? And I'm like, man, what should I tell you? I finished another 2 records. I will release them. I'm happy about it. But what for? You know, for the small parties I do in Germany, I'm happy to have those parties. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, everyone, all of us, if you love what you're doing, you want to go back to playing shows, people, talk to people, don't wear a mask, don't do this, you know. I want to go back to social life, you know. I mean, we have this, but still everything is different at the moment. So it's ups and downs. I mean, man, I'm learning every day for sure.
Yeah. Same here. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this and yeah, giving some insights into your life and into your thoughts at this moment. I believe it's always valuable to share your thoughts because it might help someone somewhere on the world who's listening right now.
Thanks, man. Thanks
and I wish you best of luck in the upcoming months. Hopefully, things will start to go back up and running again, but I'm a bit afraid that it's going to take longer than we might hope.
Yeah, I think we have to stay strong at least until beginning of next year. I mean, the winter, there's not so much going to happen during the winter, that's for sure. We try to do small shows here, but yeah, let's see. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
No problem, man. Thanks. Have a good day.
Have a good one. Talk soon, huh?